Katharine Hepburn, one of the most iconic actresses of Hollywood's golden age, was known not only for her fierce independence and talent but also for her outspoken atheism. In an era when religious beliefs were often expected and widely promoted in public life, Hepburn stood apart. She candidly stated, "I'm an atheist, and that's it. I believe there's nothing we can know except that we should be kind to each other and do what we can for people." This quote reflected her pragmatic, humanist worldview. Raised in a progressive household that encouraged free thought, Hepburn maintained her disbelief in a higher power throughout her life. She did not shy away from discussing her views, despite potential backlash in a time when Hollywood was steeped in traditional values and often wary of controversy. Hepburn's legacy as a trailblazer extended beyond her film roles. She lived according to her principles, whether it was in defying gender norms, refusing to conform to studio expectations, or speaking openly about her atheism. Her courage helped pave the way for more open dialogue on personal belief in public life. Spencer Tracy, one of the most acclaimed actors of Hollywood's golden age, was raised in a devout Catholic household and even considered joining the priesthood in his youth. However, as he aged, his views on religion changed significantly. Despite maintaining a public image that avoided religious controversy, those close to Tracy revealed that he had grown deeply skeptical of organized religion. In private conversations and letters, he expressed doubts about the existence of God and the teachings of the Church. Friends and biographers have described him as an atheist later in life, although he never made a formal public declaration. His long-term partner, Katharine Hepburn, an openly declared atheist, also suggested that Tracy had lost his faith. Still, he remained culturally Catholic in some ways, attending church services occasionally, likely out of habit or respect for family tradition. Tracy's journey from devout believer to quiet skeptic reflected a personal struggle between upbringing and belief, common among many of his generation. Though discreet about his atheism, his private convictions diverged sharply from the religious norms of Hollywood at the time. James Whale, best known as the director of Frankenstein, 1931, The Invisible Man, 1933, and Bride of Frankenstein, 1935, was a pioneering figure in early Hollywood. Unusually for his time, Whale was openly gay and also openly atheist, two traits that set him apart in an industry dominated by traditional values and rigid social norms. Born in England, Whale served in World War I, an experience that likely shaped his worldview and contributed to his rejection of religious belief. He made no secret of his atheism, nor did he conform to expectations of discretion about his sexuality or philosophy. His films often contain subversive themes, exploring the alienation and moral ambiguity of creators and outcasts, possibly reflecting his own experiences as an outsider. Though his career declined in the late 1930s, Whale left a lasting legacy in horror and film history. His candor about his beliefs and identity was rare and courageous for the era. James Whale remains a significant figure not only for his cinematic contributions but also for living authentically in a time when doing so came with great personal risk. Luis Buñuel, the legendary Spanish filmmaker, was one of the most prominent atheists of cinema's golden age. Born in 1900 into a devout Catholic family, Buñuel initially embraced religion, even considering priesthood. However, his exposure to literature, philosophy, and surrealism during his university years in Madrid led him to reject organized religion entirely. He became a committed atheist, though his work often engaged with religious themes, not to affirm them, but to critique their hypocrisy, repression, and contradictions. Films such as Viridiana, 1961, The Exterminating Angel, 1962, and Simon of the Desert, 1965, showcase his satirical and often irreverent take on faith, clergy, and dogma. Buñuel famously said, "I'm still an atheist, thank God," encapsulating his ironic humor and deep skepticism. His atheism was not just a private belief but a central part of his artistic identity. Through his surreal, provocative imagery and narrative techniques, Buñuel challenged viewers to question authority, morality, and the role of religion in society. His bold stance, both in life and film, made him a singular voice in world cinema and a fearless critic of religious orthodoxy. H. L. Mencken, though not a Hollywood celebrity, was a towering intellectual figure of the early 20th century and an unflinching atheist. As a journalist, essayist, and cultural critic, Mencken used his sharp wit and commanding prose to challenge religious belief, which he saw as irrational and oppressive. He was particularly critical of fundamentalist Christianity, which he viewed as anti-intellectual and a threat to individual freedom. His essays, especially during the 1920s, openly mocked religious dogma and the influence of religion on politics and education. Mencken famously covered the 1925 Scopes monkey trial, ridiculing the prosecution's anti-evolution stance and bringing national attention to the conflict between science and religious fundamentalism. He once wrote, "Religion is fundamentally opposed to everything I hold in veneration: courage, clear thinking, honesty, fairness, and, above all, love of the truth." Despite the controversy his views sparked, Mencken never softened his stance. His outspoken atheism and defense of free thought helped shape the modern secular critique of religion and established him as one of the boldest skeptics of his time. Greta Garbo, one of Hollywood's most enigmatic stars during the Golden Age, was known for her intensely private nature, especially regarding her personal beliefs. Though raised in a Lutheran household in Sweden, Garbo did not publicly embrace organized religion and instead expressed agnostic views. She often questioned traditional faith and showed spiritual doubts throughout her life. Garbo preferred to keep her inner life private, rarely discussing religion or spirituality openly, which added to her mysterious persona. Friends and biographers have noted that she leaned toward a kind of quiet skepticism rather than strong atheism or religious faith. Unlike many of her contemporaries who publicly identified with particular beliefs, Garbo's stance was more ambiguous and introspective. This distance from religion did not mean she lacked a sense of wonder or contemplation about life's deeper questions, but she rejected dogma and rigid doctrines. Garbo's agnosticism reflected a thoughtful and independent mind, living by her own principles away from the spotlight's glare, reinforcing her legacy as a captivating yet private icon. Charlie Chaplin, one of the most influential figures of Hollywood's Golden Age, was known not only for his groundbreaking work in silent film but also for his complex views on religion. While not openly declaring himself an atheist, Chaplin was deeply skeptical of organized religion and its role in society. He leaned toward humanism, emphasizing the importance of human values, compassion, and social justice over religious dogma. Throughout his life, Chaplin supported secular causes and often criticized the hypocrisy and inequality perpetuated by religious institutions. His films sometimes reflected these themes, highlighting the struggles of ordinary people and questioning authority. Chaplin's political leanings also aligned with progressive and leftist movements, which tended to favor secularism and social reform. Although he rarely spoke explicitly about his personal faith, his actions and statements showed a clear preference for reason, empathy, and human dignity rather than religious belief. This nuanced stance made Chaplin a quietly influential voice advocating for a more humane and rational world during a time when religious conformity was the norm. Marlene Dietrich, a legendary star of Hollywood's Golden Age, was raised in a religious household in Germany but later distanced herself from organized religion. Known for her glamorous persona and strong-willed character, Dietrich embraced a more agnostic and rationalist worldview as she grew older. She openly rejected the dogmas and rituals of traditional faith, preferring instead to focus on human reason, ethics, and personal freedom. Throughout her career, Dietrich supported causes that promoted tolerance, individual rights, and scientific thinking. Her views reflected a broader skepticism toward religious institutions, which she sometimes saw as restrictive or hypocritical. Though she didn't publicly label herself an atheist, her agnosticism and critical attitude toward religion were clear. Dietrich's stance was part of her larger commitment to authenticity and independence, both on and off the screen. She remains remembered not only for her iconic performances but also for her progressive beliefs and refusal to conform to societal expectations regarding faith. Douglas Fairbanks, one of the most charismatic figures of early Hollywood, was a symbol of the silent film era's swashbuckling hero. While he rarely spoke publicly about religion, his personal beliefs remain a subject of quiet speculation. Fairbanks was raised in a Christian household but, like many of his contemporaries in the progressive Hollywood elite, seemed to distance himself from traditional religious practice in adulthood. He moved in social circles that were largely secular, associating with artists, intellectuals, and actors who often leaned agnostic or atheist. Though not known to be outspoken on spiritual matters, Fairbanks prioritized personal integrity, self-reliance, and optimism, values more aligned with humanism than organized religion. His lifestyle and relationships reflected a modern, individualistic worldview, more focused on creativity and personal achievement than religious devotion. While no definitive record confirms his stance as atheist or agnostic, Fairbanks' lack of religious expression and his secular surroundings suggest a quiet detachment from faith. In a time when public figures typically conform to mainstream values, Fairbanks' apparent non-religious stance marked him as part of Hollywood's emerging culture of independent thought. Tallulah Bankhead, one of the most flamboyant and outspoken actresses of Hollywood's golden age, was known for her sharp wit, bold lifestyle, and rejection of conventional norms, including religious belief. Raised in a politically prominent Southern family with strong Episcopal roots, Bankhead rebelled early against her conservative upbringing. Though she never formally declared herself an atheist, she was openly skeptical of organized religion and rejected its influence over personal freedom and morality. Bankhead often mocked religious hypocrisy and was known to challenge societal expectations around gender, sexuality, and belief. Her libertine lifestyle and embrace of personal liberty stood in stark contrast to the religious conservatism of her era. Friends and biographers have described her as irreverent, free-thinking, and uninterested in spiritual matters, preferring to live by her own code rather than one imposed by religious doctrine. Her rejection of dogma aligned with her broader defiance of authority and social conventions. In a time when conformity was expected, Bankhead's fearless attitude toward religion and society made her a symbol of unapologetic individuality and a quiet icon of secular independence. Burt Lancaster, a prominent leading man of Hollywood's golden age, was not only known for his intense screen presence but also for his strong personal convictions, including his atheism. Raised in a Protestant family in New York City, Lancaster developed a deep skepticism of organized religion as he matured, ultimately identifying as an atheist. Despite his lack of religious belief, Lancaster was drawn to roles that explored moral and spiritual themes, famously portraying Moses in the 1975 miniseries Moses the Lawgiver. His choice to play such a religious figure reflected his professional commitment to storytelling, not personal faith. Off-screen, Lancaster was an outspoken advocate for civil rights, social justice, and liberal causes, often aligning with secular and humanist values. He was deeply principled and intellectually curious, traits that guided both his career and personal life. While he didn't make his atheism a central part of his public image, he did not shy away from it either. Lancaster's legacy is that of a thoughtful and principled artist who embraced complex roles while staying true to his own worldview, even when it challenged societal expectations. Elsa Lanchester, best known for her iconic role as the bride in Bride of Frankenstein, 1935, was a talented actress with a sharp wit and unconventional spirit. Born in England and raised in a highly unorthodox household, Lanchester was exposed early to progressive, secular values. Her parents were socialists and staunchly anti-religious, which deeply influenced her worldview. As an adult, Lanchester openly identified as an atheist and maintained her disbelief throughout her life. In her autobiography, Elsa Lanchester Herself, she candidly discussed her atheism and how it shaped her outlook and personal choices. Despite working in an industry where religious conformity was often expected, Lanchester never shied away from expressing her views. Her marriage to fellow actor Charles Laughton, who also held atheist beliefs, reflected a shared intellectual and philosophical bond. Lanchester's career was marked by her memorable character roles and her refusal to conform to Hollywood's norms, both professionally and personally. Her atheism, like her artistry, was expressed with integrity and intelligence, making her not just a remarkable actress, but a quietly influential figure in a time when open disbelief was still rare. Charles Laughton, one of the most respected actors of Hollywood's golden age, was widely known for his commanding performances in films such as The Hunchback of Notre Dame, 1939, Mutiny on the Bounty, 1935, and witness for the prosecution, 1957. Behind his acclaimed screen presence, Lawton was also known in his private life for being intellectually curious and deeply skeptical of religious belief. Though he was raised in a devout Catholic household in England, Lawton reportedly rejected religion as he grew older, adopting an atheist or agnostic worldview. His wife, actress Elsa Lanchester, confirmed his disbelief in her autobiography, describing their shared views on religion and their preference for secular humanist values. Lawton was a voracious reader with a keen interest in philosophy, literature, and politics, which further shaped his critical view of organized religion. While he never made public declarations about his atheism, those close to him recognized his quiet but firm stance. In an era when religious conformity was expected in Hollywood, Lawton's rejection of faith and embrace of rational thought added another layer of depth to a man already known for his complex characters and profound intellect. Gene Wilder, beloved for his iconic roles in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and Young Frankenstein, was also known for his thoughtful and introspective nature off-screen. Throughout his life, Wilder identified as an atheist, openly embracing a secular worldview. While he rarely made his personal beliefs the center of public discussion, those close to him acknowledged his skepticism toward organized religion. Wilder's atheism aligned with his humanist values, emphasizing kindness, creativity, and empathy over dogma or superstition. His work often reflected a deep curiosity about the human condition, blending humor with insight, which resonated with audiences worldwide. Despite his fame, Wilder maintained a private life focused on his art, family, and humanitarian efforts. He was known for supporting causes related to health and social justice, demonstrating his belief in making the world a better place through tangible actions rather than religious faith. Gene Wilder's legacy as a gifted actor and compassionate individual remains a testament to living authentically according to one's own principles. Jane Russell, one of Hollywood's most glamorous stars during the Golden Age, is often remembered for her roles in films like The Outlaw, 1943, and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, 1953. While she was raised in a religious environment, Russell's personal beliefs evolved over time toward agnosticism. In a 1985 interview, she spoke openly about her dissatisfaction with being typecast as a sex symbol and how this affected her personally and professionally. Alongside this, she discussed her spiritual views, expressing uncertainty about traditional religious doctrines and the existence of a higher power. Russell's agnosticism reflected a thoughtful and questioning mind rather than strict atheism, as she preferred to leave room for doubt and exploration. This stance was somewhat unusual for Hollywood actresses of her era, who often publicly aligned with mainstream religious beliefs. Despite the pressures to conform, Russell maintained an independent outlook on faith, which aligned with her broader desire to be seen as more than just a glamorous figure. Her nuanced perspective on religion adds depth to her legacy beyond the silver screen.